I'm strong, my word is born like James. Niggas be trying to test, but they weak like 7 days. MCs run away when I kick it. They act so chicken, they should come with a large drink and a biscuit.
What exactly is an old head? It can be best described as a hip-hop head whose taste lives in the past, specifically the early 90s to early 2000s. Of course, stretching it back into the 80s only strengthens that Puritan perspective. Joe Buttons would be the perfect example of what it means to be an old head in the modern day. He's passionate about his opinion, so passionate that he often confuses it for actual fact.
For people that don't know hip-hop, for idiots like him who do not know hip-hop, it's my job to get rid of anybody at Complex who's just writing sensationalized shit to not know fucking hip-hop.
There are 3 levels to this system. There's the yellow, the orange, and the red. Now you should know that being an old head is a mentality and not an age. The common misconception is that one has to be 30 or over. Consider somebody like Joey Badass. He's 22 years old, he's not bitter about today's music, but he's nostalgic about the 90s in a quite literal way with 1999, and his discography hasn't strayed too far from that sound. He also dresses like a 90s action figure. Badass would be considered a level yellow. What he's missing is contrast, the ability to compare then to now, and that's simply because he was born when the 90s took flight, so he doesn't have much to be upset about. But Joe is where it gets interesting. If you ask me, I would say he's not the traditional form of an old head. He's kind of centered. Let's play with this using a simple example like politics. Joe's running for office, and he's declared his stance on issues like rap beefs, boom bap production, wordy lyrics. He strongly favors all of them, and any old head would agree and support his policies, much like any conservative Republican would support the views of Vice President Mike Pence on military expansion, the right to bear arms, keeping God in the public sphere. Pence and Joe would appear to be similar at this point, considering the fact that Mike's sensibilities would be stuck in the 80s, aligning itself with Ronald Reagan, and Joe's thinking would align itself with KR Rakim DMC. I'm not sure. And here's where Joe loses the vote of the traditional hip-hop head. Issues like mumble rappers, he favors that, or maybe tolerates it, but he gives it its creative license. Feminine artists, supports it. Ghostwriting, he seems to give it a pass considering his affinity with Drake. As for Mr. Pence, new hot-button issues like abortion, same-sex marriage, and climate change are of no interest to him. And sure, it's easy to categorize Joe as the full extremity of a conservative when you sit him across academics who's in his mid-20s. But Lord Jamar would be someone who would be more of an extreme example of an old head. Even the subject of white artists is something he has a problem with. If he ran against Buttons, Joe would come across as a much more progressive candidate. Jamar is definitely a level red. I believe the most frustrating aspect of being an older listener is to hear younger artists undermine the culture that they represent, while simultaneously walking through doors that older artists had to kick open. So it's not the subpar music that hurts, it's the realization that hip-hop is merely a stepping stone to get to some greater endeavor, as if rap limits their creative wingspan. Even still, above a yellow, orange, or red, the worst conservatives are those who would never even question Biggie's place in history. They'd put him on a pedestal, even considering his short career. They'd never put Kanye in the conversation of the greatest of all time. He's just far too different. And as much as you all love Kendrick, to them, he's somebody who simply got to the party a decade too late, because they stopped listening years ago.